Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Real Estate Realities with me, the Rebel Broker. My name is Robert Whitelaw, and I am the Rebel Broker, licensed real estate broker in the state of California, member of the National Association of Realtors. But please don't hold that against me. Welcome to it, folks. I hope everyone had a fantastic Christmas as we wind up 2022, heading into 2023. I hope you all also have a fantastic New Year's Eve, hopefully to celebrate. You know, this is also a time that is showing a lot of turmoil for the real estate market. And there are things that I think everyone needs to be aware of as we move into the new year and survive this changing market. Now, before we get started, if you'd like to get in contact with me, you can find me at my website, soldbyrobert.com. From there, I've got a lot of different tools that you can use. If you're a buyer, you can start your search. If you're a seller, you can ask for a hands-on comparable market analysis, which is me actually going in and creating a market analysis for your property so you can get an idea of what your home is worth today. And then, of course, you can also use the automated instant estimation of your home's value that's right there on the site. And it's really super easy to use. You don't have to interact with anyone. You just enter your address and it'll spit out a number. And this show kind of relates to that logic, right? So the automated tools out there, just use whatever publicly available information there is out there to try to estimate what your home would be worth today. And it's using whatever the recent solds are, that type of stuff. And it's basically just making a guess based on regular sales that have happened within the last few months. And that's really where I want to make a distinction that I think is super important for both buyers and sellers to be aware of. But right now, it's particularly important for buyers. And this isn't a theory. I've actually had a few folks who I've been helping through negotiations be sort of countered their offer with data from other listing agents and from other folks involved in the negotiation process that I think really need and deserve a little bit of extra attention in terms of really decoding what you're being told. When a market shifts, it takes time for data to catch up with that shift. So while here on Real Estate Realities and also on my market analysis videos and on the monthly coffee and real estate shows, we're all about talking about data to try to figure out where we're going. When you're seeing the markets change as rapidly as we are in some areas, going with last month's data is sometimes even not enough to be able to get a good handle on what's happening in your local market. So what is this as it relates specifically to buyers? Right now, sellers and selling agents are leveraging market data to sell their price, right? To get buyers to buy into this idea that, well, you know, here's what the market is showing in terms of performance for comparable homes like this. So since this home sold for X amount 2 months ago or a month ago, this home is definitely worth that today. And of course, we know that in a market in decline, that's not going to be the case. A home that sells a month ago that's identical to a home you're trying to sell this month, odds are it's going to have to sell for a little bit less in order for it to hit the market at the right price. So what today's show is about is talking to all of my buyers, whether you're a buyer and you're looking for a home for you to live in, or whether you're an investor. It has never been more important to calibrate yourself to today's market realities. So let's go ahead and start off with someone who's interested in buying their home or buying the next home, whatever it might be. As you head into these markets, you need your real estate professional to be creating for you a market analysis that is identical to what they would create as if they were listing the home. And you need to also understand what the trends are. So you can get a bit of a snapshot of what the market tends to indicate a home is worth. And if you don't have homes that sold within just a few days of you making an offer on a home, if you've got a comparable home that sold a month ago, you need to understand that that is likely not the number anymore. So what you need to do is calibrate yourself to what's been the decline. So step one is get your agent to do that market analysis to figure out what the market says, what the historical data says that home would be worth. And then be smart about it. Take a look at the sources he or she is using, in terms of how comparable is it and how old is the data. It's never been more important than right now for you to understand that something that's older than a month is likely not going to be giving you the right information in terms of how aggressive you can be about your offer on a property. So that's step number one. Step number two is, if you don't have properties that have sold within just a week or two of the home that you're looking to buy, look at what the trend is, right? This is where you can take a step back and say, all right, I'm looking to buy in this neighborhood of San Jose, and over the last few months, or over the last 6 months, we have seen this kind of monthly decline in average sales price for homes of this type. So then you can extrapolate that. If it's been a 3% decline or a 2% decline, or whatever the number is, you can then apply that to whatever the market analysis indicated the value was based on those older sales. So it's just a way to be smarter about making your offers. And it's also a way for you to facilitate not only being aggressive in your offer prices, but also being more informed. And you can use this as information to back up the offer that you're making. So don't right now feel that in many cases you need to be complying with some sort of a list price, asking price that a listing agent may have put out for a home. Now, as we look at homes for us to buy, to live in on our own, there's definitely an emotional part of this. Now, if you're a buyer who's an investor, emotion doesn't come into it. Right? Buying an investment property is a math problem. And if the math doesn't work out, then you don't buy the house. I am actually looking at a property right now where I was just running the numbers for it, and it would be, let me see what the number was here. If I were to buy it, the property would be on cash return would be negative $171 a month. So obviously that's not going to work. That comes to a negative $2,054 per year. And that's just obviously not the math that's going to get this home sold. So as an investor, the other thing that you need to keep in mind is you need to review recent trends for the last 2 years on rents, right? Because a different element for you as a buyer investor, particularly if you're looking to do a buy and hold, if you're looking to do a buy and renovate, that's fine. Right now, you need to keep in mind that that's really the flipping world is really having troubles right now. And this very much mirrors, just as sort of a side note, this very much mirrors what happened in 2007, 2008, where as part of the process that really bloated our markets were flippers who were buying homes and flipping them obviously at a higher price. Now we're finding that flipping is not paying off for folks. That market is starting to collapse. And in addition to subprime lending, that was really one of the things that lit the fire under the downturn in the market last time around. And that's probably worth talking about in a whole separate show to look at the parallels between 2007 and 8 and what we're seeing now. But for right now, if you're an investor, it's never been more important to understand the data, particularly if you're looking in areas that you don't specifically live in. Even if you live in San Jose and you are looking to purchase in another community in San Jose, you need to acquaint yourself with the realities of that other submarket because it may be completely different from what your understanding is of your local market. So what does that mean? You want to look at things like rent trends over the last few years. If you're looking to invest, you need to understand, am I at the top of a market in terms of rents? Because I think that there's a reasonable argument to be made that rents may decline over the next year or two, or at least definitely not grow. So you need to be calibrated to where you are. If you're looking in an area outside of, say, Silicon Valley, where rents have not grown significantly, they've been relatively stable over a longer period of time, well, then that's probably not something you need to worry about. You're not really buying at a peak. You're buying at sort of a base level that tends to be reliably at that point, right? If you're not seeing crazy fluctuations, if you're not seeing a hockey stick of rents in the area that you're looking in, you're probably not buying at a peak. But if you are, and you want to still participate in that market, you need to be aware that there is a decent probability of that flattening or declining in the near future, say the next year or 2 years. So the math still needs to work, and don't assume rent rises in those situations where you may be at a peak. You may actually need to budget for a decline in rent. Now, for my sellers, why does this matter? The competition is doing nothing but getting more intense for sellers. If you want to sell for the best price and the best terms in the shortest amount of time, you need to come onto the market with a properly chosen sales price. And the only way you're going to be able to do that, aside from making sure your home is the best example of its kind on the market, which isn't always possible. Remember, those are the two things you have control over: how the home is visually appealing to buyers and the price. Those are really the only two things that you can directly control. So as you as a seller move into the marketplace, you need to think about how competitive are you, but then in terms of how the property appears, but then also how you compete on price. The last thing you want is to be staying on the market for months and months in a marketplace where values are dropping actively, because what you listed your home for and could have sold it for at the time that you listed it is going to decrease over time. So if let's just use round numbers. Let's say you have a home, you're going to put it on the market, you're going to list it for $500,000. Let's say 450 was the right number. As the months go on, that number is just going to drop on what the market will pay. So let's say it goes from 450 to 445, from 445 to 442. With waiting to try to achieve that $500,000 price, you're still losing money on what the market is actually willing to pay. So make sure now more than ever that whether you are a buyer, seller, or investor, you are really doing your homework on numbers, and your real estate professional that you've chosen to help you should definitely be able to participate in that process effectively and give you the data you need to make the right decisions. Now, I've had some folks ask, well, is it better to just step away from the market right now and not get involved at all? Again, it's going to depend on your situation. We've talked about the different things you should be thinking about as you're coming onto the marketplace. If you're a seller, there are still some submarkets that are relatively hot and you could get a decent payoff from your home. It depends on how much equity you have in the home, but your odds of getting something now at a higher price are better than waiting, at least in the near term. For buyers and investors, I think now is the time to be out there looking. Again, you want to be using the best data possible, because as there are changes in the marketplace, that adds confusion and chaos. And the only way to filter out all that craziness is to have data and be able to make conclusions based on really good information. So use the resources available to you. Whatever market you're in, your real estate professional should have access to the tools that will let you get the information you need to, if not directly determine what a home's value is with very, very recent comparable sales, or to at least be able to extrapolate what a right number might be based on a home that sold, say, a month ago, but then also mixed with understanding the trends of the market since then. Okay? So I hope that that's been useful. Today's show was one that kind of came from a few conversations I've had over the last few weeks, and I hope that all of you take it to heart. Getting that good information is going to be what makes a difference for you. Now, as always, the goal is to leave more information on the table than I take up in your time. Absolutely hope we've achieved that this time around. Thanks again for listening, everyone, and I'll talk to y'all next time.